This video is going to start with a brief biography of Abraham Maslow and how his most famed work connects to other human behavior theorists. Then we'll go into better detail on the hierarchy of needs and end with some practical examples for mental health practitioners and specifically some tips about how to apply this theory to the ASWB licensing exam for social workers. Good old Abraham Maslow was from Brooklyn, New York. He was born to Jewish Russian immigrant parents, and he actually self-reported feeling lonely and unhappy in his childhood and found comfort in books. And I encourage you to think about those origins and how they may have influenced his theories as we move forward. He was educated at the University of Wisconsin and has some interconnections with some other well-known theorists. So he was actually mentored by Harry Harlow, who's another well-known psychologist who did the famous monkey experiment where it was determined whether a baby monkey would bond and attach more closely to a sterile wire, uncomfy mother who fed the baby, or a soft, cozy, comfy cloth mother who did not provide food or sustenance to the monkey. He was also influenced by Gestalt psychology, looking at the way that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And he had critiques of Freud's psychoanalytic theory and Skinner's behavior theory, thinking that both of these were kind of negative and pathologizing of the human experience, and he wanted to look more positively at human potential and creativity. Some things that we often associate with Maslow's work include positivity, potential, well-being, and peak experiences in the human world. He's famous for humanistic psychology and most notably his hierarchy of needs, which we're going to focus on. I made this graphic to show this pyramid of hierarchy of needs. There's a lot of different models that you can see out there, but the key idea is that humans have a hierarchy of needs, starting with our most basic needs at the bottom, and as those are met, we start having more needs and different needs that move up the pyramid. So at the base of the pyramid, we have physiological needs. If you think about it, imagine that you're suffocating, you're having a hard time breathing. You're going to be really focused on getting a breath of air. You're not going to be worrying about your life purpose or how you did on your last performance review at work or how many friends you have on Facebook. You're going to be focused on getting what that most pressing need is, which is the ability to sustain life and breathe. Similarly, things like hunger, thirst, and sleep fit into this category. An example of this would be the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, needing to make sure that there's access to clean and safe water before you can worry about things like relationships or achievements. The next level is safety. Issues like interpersonal violence or individuals experiencing homelessness would fit into this category of having trouble at this level of the pyramid. Things related to resources, health, property, and financial security tend to belong to this category. Then we move on to relationships, love, belonging, friendship, community. So if you're a therapist working with couples or family therapy, that would belong in this section of the pyramid. Maslow theorized that after you're on a solid foundation with your relationships, then you're more focused on esteem. And that can be both internal, self-esteem, or external, things like recognition and achievements and freedom. And finally, the pinnacle of the hierarchy of needs is self-actualization, becoming the best you can be. So not everybody reaches this stage, but examples of this are finding your dharma or your calling in life. And he defined it as the full use and exploitation of your talents, capacities, and potentialities. So everyone's striving to reach that full potential, but self-actualization is not actually a final destination or endpoint. It's a continual process where you're stretching yourself, improving your well-being, creativity, and feeling fulfillment. Now keep in mind that you're not going to just necessarily progress up this pyramid in a linear fashion. You might be at the self-actualization part of the pyramid and then experience a natural disaster and be right back down to safety or even physiological needs. Another note about this in terms of one of the controversies with this is, where does sex and reproduction fall into this? Some would say that sex is actually a physiological need at the bottom of this pyramid, while others say that that actually belongs more in the love and belonging section, because although there may be intrinsic drives to reproduce, that you're not going to not survive if you're not having those needs met. So this is a way of conceptualizing human needs and what we think about when our cup is full, if you will, in certain categories, then we move on to other longings and goals. How is this applied in the mental health field as mental health practitioners? Well, one of the applications is to help you prioritize if you have a client who has multiple different complex needs, whether that's in case management or clinical therapy, helping you to decide where you might want to start. And again, there's different philosophies of how to approach that, but using this lens of the hierarchy of needs, it would help you to determine what you want to focus on first. And the way that I remember this is, if you have mucho alarming situations or many alarming situations, you focus on what's low on the pyramid. And that helps you both make the decisions and remember that this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So let's look at an example. I'm going to focus specifically on social workers and the ASWB exam licensing prep. There's often a scenario and it asks, what would the social worker do first or next? So let's give this example of, you have a new client who comes to see you for help with a variety of issues. He's worried about finding a new apartment when his lease ends in 2 months, so he wonders where he's going to live next year after that. He's got poor self-esteem because he's recently gained weight. He's concerned that he will not have enough money to buy groceries next week due to being laid off. His daughter has been getting poor grades in school, and his wife is threatening to divorce him. But using this lens of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what should the social worker address first? So thinking about this pyramid and what is, if there are many or mucho alarming situations going on, what's lower on the pyramid? So thinking about that, using that lens, the answer would be the potential food insecurity, because hunger is the most pressing issue. You have to think about what's lower on the pyramid and also what's happening time-wise, what's coming up first. And so this can be a helpful way to navigate through some of those more complex cases, because typically people don't just have one problem, right? We have a lot of different problems, and this can help us get there. I hope that that's a helpful overview, and good luck.